My name is William Doran, and I am a sustainability planner with Napa County. We are pivoting away from our first conversation of the day, and we are now going to speak about local rule changes coming from the Bay Area Air District. During this panel, we're going to be joined by three guest speakers, one panelist from the Air District, and one each from the City of Berkeley and County of San Mateo. Before we get started, I want to again encourage everyone to use our Q&A feature to submit questions for our panelists. Once we get through the three presentations, we will again do a combined question and answer with the three of them. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our first speaker of this panel. Jennifer Lamb is an assistant manager in the Regulatory Development Division at the Bay Area Air District. She is overseeing the current rule development work related to zero NOx standards for space and water heating. Thank you for joining us today, Jennifer. Please start us off.
Thanks, William. Good morning, everyone. So as William said, my name is Jennifer Lamb at the Air District, and I'm just going to be doing a quick review of what our zero NOx space and water heating rules are that were passed by our board of directors in March of 2023, and then also provide you guys with a quick update of work we've done over the past 2.5 years and where we're at now, because we are um, looking at some further changes to allow us for a little bit of flexibility and what the path is for that. Um, and so for those who don't know, also the air districts that we serve, the entire Bay Area, 9 counties, so 7 whole counties, and then parts of Sonoma and Solano counties. And we are governed by a board of directors that consists of elected officials from across the Bay Area. So county supervisors, mayors, those sorts of folks, and those folks are the ones who vote on things that come to them from staff and pass our rules. And so that's who presided over the original rulemaking. But you can go to the next slide, William. So as a background, so the Air District has had these two rules, Regulation 9, Rule 4, and Rule 6, since the 80s. And so they apply to furnaces for 9.4, water heaters for 9.6, and we have emission standards for nitrogen oxides for these appliances, and we've had them since the 80s. But our rules are specific to water heaters and furnaces. They do not apply to stoves, dryers, or water heaters or boilers larger than 2 million BTU per hour. We have a different rule for that, which is not included in this zero NOx package, or other appliances. And then appliances that use propane or non-natural gas fuels also aren't applicable to these rules, and mobile home furnaces are also excluded. So we're talking explicitly about natural gas fired space and water heating. We do not currently have rules that apply to stoves or dryers or anything like that at all. And I'll talk a little bit about why that is in a slide or two. So we can go to the next slide. So the reason why we look at these appliances and the reason why we've been regulating them for decades is that natural gas combustion in buildings is actually a really large portion of NOx emissions in the Bay Area. And so you could see on the left here that as a whole, natural gas combustion in buildings is a larger source of these NOx emissions, which contribute to the formation of particulate matter as well as ozone and have lasting health effects. It's a bigger source overall than all the passenger vehicles in the Bay Area, as well as all of the refineries in the Bay Area. And so while each individual appliance isn't that big, as a whole, from a public health standpoint, it is something that we see in our inventory that we want to make sure that we're addressing and protecting public health. And the reason why we focus on space and water heating specifically, as you can see on the other side of the slide, is that space heating is 66% of these emissions of that bar, and water heating is 23%. And so stoves are a smaller portion, other appliances are a smaller portion. So we, as the Air District, are really focused on what are the biggest sources of emissions. And it's obvious from our inventories and from the data that it is furnaces and water heaters that are the largest contributors to these emissions, and therefore the largest contributors to public health. So that's why we have our rules about these, and that's why we focus on these appliances. So we go to the next slide. So as I was saying, so NOx is a really important driver of um, public health in terms of air quality in the Bay Area. So with the 2023 zero NOx zero NOx rules for space and water heating. At full implementation of these rules, we see a lot of health benefits that are included on this slide, including preventing up to 85 premature deaths per year, lowering PM 2.5 exposure, particularly in communities of color, as those are also typically denser communities with a lot more of these appliances, and just an overall improvement in regional air quality. So that's why these are important to us. You can go to the next slide. So, our rules that were passed in March of 2023 introduced zero NOx requirements for for appliances that are covered by rules 9.4 and 9.6. And so those zero NOx dates are on the slide in the table. So currently, as the rules are written, as they were passed on in March of 2023, on January for appliances manufactured after January 1st, 2027, if you were to replace an appliance that was manufactured after that date, it would need to meet the zero NOx standard. If for a water heater less than 75,000 BTU per hour, then that same requirement comes in for furnaces in 2029, and then for larger water heaters between 75,000 and 2 million BTU per hour in 2031. That 2031 date also includes on-demand gas water heaters because that's where their BTU hour is in between that 75,000 and 2 million. The 2027 date, less than 75,000, you can roughly correlate 1,000 BTU per hour with a gallon of size. It's not exact, but so these are about 75, 80 gallon or less water heaters. And so that would be what you would find in single family homes, small couple unit apartment buildings, that sort of thing. The water heater that you think of in your garage or in your closet. And so those are the dates that are coming up. So we can go to the next slide. So in the 2023 amendments that were passed by our board of directors, there was also this requirement to have an interim report where we would staff would come back to the board of directors, to these elected officials with a report about technology options, market availability, project costs, incentive programs that are available, sort of reporting back on what's changed since 2023, how the market has evolved, what we're seeing, and give the board an opportunity to think a little bit more about these future dates, if we're on track, if we're feeling ready and good about them moving forward. And so to assist with that, you go to the next slide. We formed an implementation working group. And so this was an advisory group that was that sort of we're having multiple iterations of this, but for the initial 2027 date, we had a first round of the implementation working group where we had an advisory group of 40 plus members from a variety of different stakeholders from some of you were on this local government, subject matter experts, CCAs. We had contractors and unions on them, manufacturers of the equipment, environmental justice and community-based organizations. So it was a very sort of diverse group, sort of working through additional research and understanding what the landscape for zero NOx the implementation of a zero NOx standard in January 1st, 2027 for those smaller water heaters would look like. And so we gave a report on that as required by that interim reporting requirement to our board of directors at the end of last year in December of 2024 to meet our 2 years prior to 2027 requirement. And so the implementation working group provide a lot of great recommendations and a lot of great thoughts about sort of what's working, what's not. And that's informing us moving forward. You go to the next slide. So for this, so again, so the implementation working group was focused on that January 1st, 2027 date for small water heaters, because that's the first thing that's coming up. We have our ongoing implementation working group working on the next one, sort of parallel processes going on. But specifically for that report for that 2027 date, we did have some recommendations. So you can go to the next slide. So we had some recommendations about sort of affordability and availability considerations for these zero NOx requirements. And so we are considering for that 2027 date, allowing for some exemptions based on equipment type. For the smallest units, we see that there's not as much availability on the market right now, as well as some limited certified exemptions for folks who have space constraints, who may need a panel upgrade, or also folks who we're also considering a low income exemption. And so we released a concept paper actually about all of these different potential avenues for allowing some flexibility for affordability and availability considerations. We released that about 3 weeks ago on our website. There's a link in these slides, but if you it's on the top of our building appliance webpage as well at the Air District. And so we're continuing to accept public comments on that concept paper until Monday, actually, until the 24th. And we will be speaking with our board of directors about that after. So you can go to the next slide. Yeah, so we're considering the board and public feedback. We have a meeting of the stationary source committee of our board of directors, so just a subset of those elected officials that will be talking to them about the concept paper and getting their feedback on sort of what levels and sort of like income level or what scenarios they think would be the most appropriate to include exemptions for, as well as talk to them about all the public comment that we've received. We've received over 80 public comments so far, with still a week left, which is a lot for us. So we're really appreciating the feedback from everyone. And then once we get all that feedback, we're planning to hold a public workshop with a little bit more solid language of what we're planning to change with potential amendments in early 2026, acknowledging that people want regulatory certainty of what's happening in 2027 as soon as possible. We're trying to balance that for sure. And then we'll report back to the board and go through the rulemaking process as we would should we decide to move forward with those exemptions. So that's where we're at right now. And I think that's my last slide. And yeah, so that's our appliance rule page, and comments for the concept paper, as well as any questions or anything can go to our general rule development address, which is being currently monitored by our staff that's working on this project.
Excellent. Thank you for joining us this morning, Jennifer. It was a really great presentation.